Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Long View, an Evansville podcast. This podcast is a partnership between WNIN, Tri-State Public Media, and the Evansville NewsLab, which is a ChangeLab at the University of Evansville. And here on the Long View, our goal is to explore the issues and talk to the people who are working to shape the city of Evansville and the future of our community. My name is Joe Atkinson. I'm the director of the Evansville NewsLab, and I'll be your host. The Newslab itself was the brainchild of retired local news mainstay Steve Berger. Steve, working along with Guy Sides and Aaron Hempfling and the University of Evansville Center for Innovation and Change, began working on a problem that is plaguing communities across this nation. How do you keep an informed public in spaces where local journalism institutions are continually stripped of the resources they need to find and disseminate information? Aided by a grant from the Listening Post Collective, they did listening sessions across the community, working to identify the gaps in the local information ecosystem. And now, through a grant from the Lumina Foundation, the Evansville NewsLab has been able to hire a director, that's how I got here, and is working with local partners to attempt to fill those gaps. Through all of this, co-founder Steve Berger has remained a driving presence. Steve is a longtime Evansville journalist and broadcaster whose career spans decades in local television, radio, and media leadership. He's here with me today to help provide the long view about the Evansville NewsLab and the future of local journalism in Evansville. Steve, welcome to the Long View.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I want to start with a pretty broad question, but talk to me about what journalism is to you.
Well, for one thing, that's changing a lot from when I first started in the business over 30 years ago. So when you ask that question, I guess I'll stick with what we know today. Journalism is the community's watchdog, and the point of it is to make sure that the citizens of the community are well served by its government and its institutions, and that's really how I see our job. But what has really become necessary, really become a factor in journalism these days is the need for the community engagement. We used to just come up with the stories on our own. We may never talk to the normal community members very much at all in our occupation for long periods of time. Now that engagement has to be constant and continual in order for us to make sure that we're doing what the community needs us to do. So, I mean, hopefully I answered your question, but it's changing so much, and it's changing almost daily now.
What do you think has shifted that has led to that community engagement becoming a need and a critical part of the journalism process?
Great question. I think that in many ways, the breakdown of the business model has forced that. We can no longer ignore the community and just do what we think we should do, or what our consultants in some cases think that we should do. And we have to engage directly with the community. So I think it's the breakdown of the business model. I think it's the rise of social media and digital platforms where it's one-to-one. It used to be broadcast, one-to-many. Now it's really one-to-one. And if the person on the receiving end doesn't see the immediate need and the immediate benefit of it, they're gone. And so we have to engage with them one-on-one. And in order to do that, we have to know what they want us to give them. And that's, I think, that is the biggest change.
So one of the questions that I have jotted down here is to talk about sort of the way that journalism has changed throughout your career. And you mentioned the breakdown of the business model. Can you talk about what that business model was and what led to the break that has kind of started this shift, I mean, over the last 15, 20 years? Let's talk about what got us here.
Well, when I started in the mid to late 1980s in news, local news, in broadcast. And at that time, it was a license to print money. What they could just keep selling the commercials for more and more and more because they had an impact and people responded to it. Local TV news still remains a very trusted source of news, by the way, in the United States. But in those days, it was king. And if you worked for the legacy station in town, the one that had most of the ratings, which I have been fortunate enough to do, you could spend as much money as you wanted to or as much money as you thought you needed to, and you were still going to make more. So that it went from that, and newspapers, frankly, were a lot the same, especially with classified advertising and things like that. When digital came along, and starting in the mid to late 1990s, and then into the 2000s, that model began to break down. You had things like Craigslist, which came along and really just devastated the classified ads in newspapers. And then also now with, I think the ratings in the local television stations have gone down, so they can't sell their ads for as much because the tech companies, that national development of Google, Meta, and so forth, that have just sucked away all the ad dollars from everybody, so that really the legacy outlets, that money was taken away by the big tech companies. And now it's almost like scraps for the local people. So that model is done. We have to figure out a way to, through the engagement with the population, and come up with other ways to make money, and also operate on less. We have to operate with less.
One of the things, I have a little spiel that I give when I talk to people about the business and how things have changed and why there is a need for a new way of doing business and a new model of journalism. And you kind of touched on exactly one of the lines that I talk about. You know, Google made a whole lot of money. Meta or Facebook made a whole lot of money.
Right.
And all of that sort of got stripped out of these local advertising budgets. So when you talk about having to find a new way to do this, what does that look like? Or what has that looked like in other communities? What is that starting to look like here? What is different from what people are used to seeing in journalism to what we're probably going to see going forward?
Well, it'll be digital platforms first. And I'm sorry to say for our broadcast friends and our print friends that their time is at least at the top of the heap is limited. It's the writing is on the wall, so to speak, for that. And so if you don't have a digital first presence, your time as a local news organization or as a media organization is going to be limited, because for one thing, it's really expensive to keep those transmitters operating, and the money is just not there to support it anymore, or the printing press is going and the money's just not there to support it anymore.
In your view, given everything that we've talked about,
Sure,
and the way that the changes that have happened, is local journalism, whether we're talking about Evansville or whether we're talking about sort of the big picture local journalism, still functioning as it should be? Is it still providing the public what they need in terms of information?
Certain things they do very well. Breaking news, crime, disasters, that type of thing, and severe weather. Amazing coverage of severe weather. We just had that this past week, and the local television stations, and to a certain extent the newspaper as well, and their online platforms cover it pretty well. I should say they do an excellent job, but that's kind of where it stops, because there's not enough resources, not enough people, human resources, for them to cover the local governments on a regular basis. The newspaper in town here in Evansville, the Courier, tries to do that, and they've got their individual efforts of their reporters are amazing, but there's just not enough of them. So we need to supplement that in some way. That's point number one. Point number two is the engagement that I mentioned. We have to keep going back to the people. But I think point number three, and this is really interesting, Joe, is what we're getting into with Newslab. And we haven't really mentioned our partnership with Our Times yet, the newspaper, is their model of it's a community organization first, and journalism is a service of that community organization. It's a function just like housing or workforce development or something like that. Journalism is part of that. That's really exciting, and I can't wait till we can get into that some more in this conversation, but also just to get out, to roll it out for the community and see what happens.
One of the things that when I talk to people in other communities that are working on this, they use the phrase, a public trust or a public good to talk about journalism. It's always been a business. It's always been something that's been run for a for-profit company. And it's almost a mindset shift that is required to look at it less as that and more as this is a community infrastructure, like roads, like public safety. That why is that? What goes away when that local journalism isn't there? What are the sort of consequences of that for a community?
The quality of life is less, and actually the economic health of the community is less because people are less informed. They don't know what's going on with their government. They don't know what's going on with education as much. They still know some things, but they don't know it as deeply as they used to know it, and so they don't have as much confidence in it. And they don't vote, or if they do vote. And this is honestly, the research shows is a direct path between low voter turnout, which Indiana and Vanderburgh County are really low, among the lowest in the nation. They used to be the lowest in the nation for voter turnout. Research shows that there's a direct correlation between those two. So that's what we lose is engagement in the process. And people don't turn out, and if they do, they don't vote in down ballot races. They don't vote in the local races, and they're not informed about the races and the candidates when they do. That's what we really miss. And then I don't have any direct correlation with the national picture and the local picture. I really focus on the local because that's what I do. But I have to believe that there probably is a correlation between the noise that happens at the national level just takes over everything because there's no information coming out at the local level. So the people look at their local government and their local responsibility to vote and be engaged with the community the same way they view this noise at the national level, and it just doesn't do us any good. So we're really focused on trying to raise the amount and the quality of what's happening with the local news and information so that folks can feel good about their community again. And it really does affect the quality of life. And
going along with what you said, I actually did see a study yesterday, and I can't remember where it was from, and I apologize for that, but that did talk about that does happen. You see that people will go to national news outlets when they don't have local news outlets, and what that leads to, because the national news is a little bit more polarized, you see both A, increased polarization, but also B, increased single ticket voting, where people will vote straight D or straight R on a ballot.
Sure.
Because they don't know who the local candidates are. They're not as informed about that. And so they just, whatever they're going to vote nationally, they vote that straight down the line. So you see that. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that it seems to lead to, and I can't draw a causation here, but I can point out a correlation. You see that there are fewer people who engage by running for office.
Exactly.
In a lot of cases. So 3 of the biggest local races this year, the county commissioner's 2nd district, which is President Justin Elpers, the Vanderburgh County Sheriff, and the Vanderburgh County Prosecutor, all appear to be on track to run unopposed. So again, fewer people engaging in the process, fewer competitive races. Like I said, I can't draw a causation there, but as they talk about less of that civic engagement leading to fewer people running for office, you have to wonder if there's a correlation, because the national research suggests that is what happens.
Yeah, well, when all you hear is this very cynical talk about redistricting fights and things like that, and the 2 major political parties very cynically saying, well, that's either a Republican or a Democrat, and you have no choice in the matter. Why do people begin to wonder, why should we even try? Well, we're going to show them why they should try, and we're going to show them why it would benefit them directly.
So talk to me about, I guess, first of all, let's go back to the beginning. Talk to me about where Newslab came from, because I've been here about 2 or 3 months at this point. You've been here for years. So talk us through a little bit about sort of the origins and where this came from and how we got to where we are today.
When I retired from WNIN at the end of 2021, I basically took the entire year of 2022 and slept. But then as we got into 2023, in the early parts of 2023, I began to look at some of the ideas of trying to address what we were calling then a news desert. And I don't think that term is quite accurate here in Evansville. There's plenty of news. It's just getting the news that people can really use. So in early 2023, I started getting some folks together, and that included Guy Sides and Aaron Hempling, and there were some other people involved. But the three of us really latched on to this idea that we really could and should try to do something differently in Evansville. And from my experience in 2020 with the University of Evansville and the ChangeLab and the Center for Innovation and Change, we had that very successful COVID reporting project. Some people may remember COVID Between the Coasts.
I won a Murrow Award for that project, didn't you?
Won a national award, for that regional Midwestern coverage.
Yeah,
so
incredible project.
That really was a great tool in our toolbox. And Aaron Lewis, the director of the CIC, had always offered me a chance to come back and do something like that because it was so successful. So here we go. We've got some resources at the University of Evansville. We've got a committed local people, and every partner we contacted, every organization we contacted said, yes, we're in. We want to be part of this because we see the need for trying to do something else with our local news. So that coalesced very quickly. We got the partner in Our Times to work on what is coming up now, and I don't want to steal their thunder, but we've been talking about this publicly that we're developing a pilot around having citizens who attend local government meetings and report on them. They get paid for it and things like that. It's a really revolutionary thing that we're going to be doing here locally. They really wanted to beef up their local news and expand their coverage and their influence in the community. So the managing editor, Rashida Ajibadi, decided that, yes, she was all in. She's going to develop as the program of citizen journalism and community journalism. And so that's how it formed. And then the first thing we did was got with our old friends at the Listening Post Collective, a national organization, and they gave us some guidance on how to go about the research of finding out what it was that we needed to do. And that was done in 2023 and 2024 with the ChangeLab students that we had at the time, did that research. And we also began doing listening sessions, which are now a monthly feature of the Newslab, where we gather community members, different groups and things like that to give us feedback on what's happening, what we're doing, and what is needed to be done. And then in 2024, the report came out from that news assessment, which Listening Post Collective paid for. And then we brought that out and we started working on it. And then, in trying to continue to build the community coalition, that's what we've been doing. And in 2025, Our Times has been piloting their citizen reporting project. And the Newslab gained you, which I'm really grateful for because we really need some good, strong leadership, working on that. The clock's running on me, how much longer I'm going to be able to keep doing this. So that's kind of where we're at. Bring us up to date. Along the way, we've done several things. As you mentioned, we were funded by the Lumina Foundation. Also, Our Times got a nice grant from the Press Forward National News Initiative. So we've got some funding, and we're getting to work.
So to you, if you had to boil down what the Newslab is here to do, what is the problem the Newslab is trying to solve?
The point of Newslab is to provide resources to help local organizations that wish to look for civic journalism solutions to address problems in the community. That's really the role of Newslab.
What does success look like to you? And 5 years from now, what has to happen for you to think, yeah, we did what we set out to do here?
Yeah, if there are organizations in town that both the legacy platforms, we would be happy to work with the legacy platforms on training with their reporters, helping beefing up their resources to allow them to do some more reporting, and really the type of reporting that they say they can't do, and they've come to us and said, we can't do it, can you help us? Which is in-depth reporting and investigative reporting, which we are well equipped to do. If we get to the end of 5 years and we've worked with some of the legacy organizations, and then including Our Times, which is one of our main partners and has been all along, to help them to get that recorders program going, then that to me would be successful. And also the other thing I should say that about that is any of the online organizations that have popped up. Evansville Watch is extremely popular. I don't know how many followers they have on Facebook. It's like over 100,000.
It's a tremendous number. I know that when I was in the mayor's office, anytime that we posted something, if Evansville Watch picked it up, the view count, the engagement just skyrocketed.
So what can we do as Newslab to help Evansville Watch or some of those other organizations to practice journalism that serves the community better? And also helps them be more successful, because you're talking about how do we help them with their business model? How do we help them with their marketing? How do we help them, grow? And that would be another thing to look at. And the other thing, last but not least, voter turnout is to try to raise projects that would raise that. So organizations that want to partner with us to do that. We've got the research resources. We've got the academic resources of UE, and we've got a broad and deep coalition of organizations in the community that want to work on this. So we can pull resources from anywhere. I'll give you a quick example. The United Neighborhoods of Evansville, they've been right with us from the beginning. They're actually their most recent newsletter did a report, an update on the Jacobsville Superfund site. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited about the idea that we're going to work with the neighborhoods organizations to actually get more news out, because who knows the neighborhoods better than they do. And so we're going to work with them on things like that. So that's what it looks like in 5 years, where the community is talking to each other and connecting with each other and engaging with each other and with local government. From the bottom up rather than the top down, which is the way it's been for a long time, so that it works better for the people.
And what does it take to make that happen?
It takes a lot of work. As you know, trying to work with different organizations who are also maybe volunteer organizations, and people are, not available sometimes when you want them to be available, or they embrace the idea, but then the execution of it, takes some work. It's a hard slog, but it's the good fight, So we're just going to keep doing it. It's going to happen because more people learn about us and start embracing the idea and saying that yes, this is what we should do, so that it becomes a cultural shift in the community. That we're going to take control. We're going to take control of our own information and our own future. And we're not going to just let it be told to us what we're going to do. I think that's what it's going to take.
And I would add to that probably some funding as well down the line eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point, because the shift is going to have to happen locally. We've gotten to our funding so far from national and regional funders. The fact that we've convinced those funders to help us pay for this work should, I think, encourage local donors to really want to get involved, both corporations and individuals who can afford to do that and see the benefit to the community of all this. And then even, people, just ordinary folks that want to pitch in a little bit to do that. But it is going to take money. The good news is we don't cost near as much as a lot of the other efforts that people have been trying to raise money for.
No towers and printing presses here. Right?
No.
And I hate to ask the negative question, but what would make it fail?
Well, if people just give up, because I just want to make it very clear, this is not going to be easy. It's always nice to get that big push at the start, and everybody's enthusiastic about it. They want to get going on it, but it's not an overnight thing. It didn't get this way overnight, and it's going to take a while to get back to where we want it to be. So I think that if people just quit on it, I think that would be the failure. But we really don't see that happening. To tell you the truth, everyone and every organization that was with us at the beginning is still involved in some way with this. And all we have to do is call them up and ask for their support.
You've touched on this a little bit, and I'm kind of getting toward a couple of my last questions, but I do want to ask, and I think I can tie these two questions together. One is what sparked your interest in journalism originally? What got you into this world, and why are you still in it? Why is this still worth doing? Because you're retired. Like, you could be, off on a beach somewhere, right? But you're here and you're doing this work. Why does this matter to you? Why is this worth doing? And how does that tie to what got you here in the first place?
I got into journalism because I saw it as a way for common folks to have a voice and to really work to make sure that was preserved. Because there are very few tools that most folks have to really make something change. So I think that's what I got into journalism for, and really why I stay in it. The Evansville has been very good to my family. We've been in this community for 34 years now, and I just want to keep giving back to that. And this is a skill that I have and knowledge that I have from all of the experience that I've gained working in Evansville and in the Midwest, that I could actually help get something like this started. So that's really why I'm involved. It's just I can. I'm retired. I have time. And I still, my knowledge and skills are still current. So yeah, I'm ready to keep going.
Unrelated to this, but the last question that we ask people on this podcast, and this is the first one, so I guess I can't say it's a tradition yet.
Some sort of lightning round about my
no. Well,
preferences for Easter eggs or something.
Nothing along those lines, though. We could talk about that offline. You mentioned that Evansville has been very good to you. That this is a community that has meant a lot to you. If you had to name one thing about Evansville, and it could be a place, it could be a feeling, it could be whatever. What is it about Evansville that you love?
The community does pull together. If it's provided a clear direction and a clear communication on what that direction is, the community will pull together, and they care for each other. When the chips are down, you can generally count on your neighbors in this town. So I think that just those basic things are what's really important to me.
Well, Steve, thank you for being here. Thank you for being our inaugural guest on the Longview podcast. We're going to be running this monthly, so you can expect to see another episode next month. Until then, thank you to everybody who's listening or watching on YouTube. Before you go, please take a moment to click the like button or to click the subscribe. And that way you'll be notified when the next one shows up next month. Until then, my name is Joe Atkinson. I'm the director of the Evansville NewsLab. He's been Steve Berger, retired Evansville news mainstay and co-founder of the Evansville NewsLab. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next month.